And then there you go. We're on.
We're on. Welcome to Southern Utah Community. This is Keith Kelsch and
Melinda Goodwin.
And Melinda's a realtor, and I'm a general contractor, and we know our community better than just about anybody in Southern Utah. And we're going to kind of explain why, and why you might want to consider using Melinda for your luxury home purchase and me for possibly your purchase of to build your new home. But it all has to do with because we know our community. I'll let you start, Melinda.
So this is our first broadcast, and we wanted everybody out there to really know the reason why we're doing this. And part of it is we are experts in our industry, not only in our service-oriented, considering our past professions, as well as our new professions that we are now practicing. And it's very important to us that we provide excellent service and to get our community's name and the quality of the people that live here and work here out to the public.
And we know our community, and Melinda's not quite telling how well she knows her community. Melinda started her career in the nursing industry, so she has a lot of background in nursing. I'll let her kind of tell a little bit about that. I come from education, so I worked in local high schools. First charter school in Utah was here in Tuacahn High School. I helped open up that school. I currently work and teach part-time, one class a week, which is all I really need at Dixie State University. And so we both, because we have that big, huge service industry background in our communities, now that we're both realtors and builders, we really know where to build your home and where to sell.
That's right. You know, in nursing world, it's been interesting how I've been able to take what I've learned as a nurse and apply it into a professional world, especially bringing in the service part of it. I think that a lot of our industry, especially real estate, is lacking in that service aspect of how we provide professionalism in our community. And so you will hear from me extreme, what do you say? I don't know, extreme
honesty.
Yeah, okay. Honesty, because I don't want it to seem like it's negative, but it's definitely a room for change. And I am about to change that.
And a lot of people, competition is all about really service floating to the top. And when you have a sense for service, I was a bartender for 10 years while going through college. And so I'm able to juggle a lot of things at once and actually see what people's needs are and kind of make the drink they need when they don't think they need to drink. We carry that over into, in my field, which is construction, really seeing and planning something out from the get-go. When I go to bed, I'm still thinking about the build for the next day and what's going to take place. And a lot of people don't do that in a lot of industries. There's a lack of service, a lack of follow-through. A lot of times they're really not there. A lot of real estate teams, although some do work together on a team, the listing is with one person, but you're dealing with a lot of other people and you really don't know who that person is. So real service is all about being accessible and being able to contact the people that you're working with. But we wanted to also help you understand why Southern Utah is such a great place.
Absolutely.
To live, to buy a home, to settle down, eventually get here. In fact, the whole world is eventually going to move to Southern Utah. we feel, and we'd like you to be able to work through us, and we can tell you everything you ever wanted to know about Southern Utah.
Even about the misconceptions that it's very hard to live here if you're not Mormon. And I think that's a big one. I get that all the time. What is it like to live there with the Mormons? And you know, I really believe that the media has misinterpreted some of the things that Utah's all about, and so we want to make sure that you are fully aware of what it's like. And there is no sugarcoating here whatsoever. You will hear things honest and truthfully from me. Coming from the nursing world, that's all I know, and that's probably been maybe a detriment at the beginning of my real estate career, because not every real estate agent is completely truthful and honest. But you know what? That's what you get with me. And if it rubs you a little wrong, I apologize. I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I will be completely honest.
And if you have any comments, you're welcome to make some comments at the bottom of this post. If they are healthcare related, Melinda can take care of that. If you have any questions with regard to education and why it is a great place to raise your children here, it's even a great place to go to school, you can post that as well. We'll let you know some of that information today and throughout our broadcast. I'll let you know a couple things about the education system down here in Southern Utah. Dixie State University is probably the smallest land-grant university in the United States for its projected growth. It's growing rapidly, more rapidly than just about any university in the state. Second or first in place would be Utah State University, actually Utah Valley University. But Dixie State is a phenomenal school with a lot of great programs. I actually work there, I still teach there, so I can tell you anything about Dixie State. The secondary system of education here in Southern Utah is very remarkable. We have what's called an intermediate and a middle school system. A lot of other states don't do that. So what happens is when your child leaves K through, say, 6th grade or 5th grade, they go into what's called an intermediate school. And that's 2 years. Then they go to another intermediate school, which is what's considered junior high. That's another 2 years. Separate schools, separate buildings, separate everything, before they get into high school, which is just 3 years. A lot of states have what's called a 4-year high school curriculum. We just have a 3-year. So the transitional element is a lot easier on kids.
Right. Well, and we still count 9th grade as high school. They're just not in the high school system. So their classes start, the athletics start, everything starts in that 9th grade. It's just they're still able to associate with the kids that are a little bit more in their personality without not all the influences of the older kids.
Right, because that transition into high school, if they're not ready for it, can be pretty brutal.
Yeah.
You go from a lot of one-on-one to less one-on-one and a bigger population. So we do have that transitional phasing in our education system, which is quite remarkable. I'm kind of pleased with it. So. Okay,
I have to tell you, my daughter's in 9th grade, and yesterday she was crying, and I was like, look, 9th grade just sucks. No matter where you're at, it's a horrible grade.
It's a terrible grade. The best grade of all, believe it or not, is your junior year of high school. It's also the most difficult year. And so if you're planning on moving, try to avoid moving your children when they're in their junior year of high school.
Yes.
It's the worst year to move. So we're trying to get you here before that happens.
Yeah, like 7th grade is best. I moved here when my oldest son was in 7th grade, and it was a great transition because he was able to establish himself. We come from a very athletic family, so he was able to establish himself in 7th grade and 8th grade before high school tryouts. Because it is a small town, you kind of get that the impression sometimes in a small town is it's who you know and who you're related to, which I haven't found that in the 2 high schools my kids have went to. It's definitely about skill, but you still want to be able to prove who you are before you get here.
Yes, and then when it comes to the schools, we have our favorites.
Like Dixie High School, today's the last baseball game.
both our children went to Dixie's high school, and we're going to we're Dixie Flyer fans, so we're not going to hold back on that. It's one of the oldest high schools in the area. It's got a lot of tradition, and the building is actually basically new, but they've preserved a lot of the old traditions and a lot of the old field for the original school. So we're Dixie Flyer fans. I didn't go there. I attended high school in California, but my kids did. So we're Flyer fans. We're just honest about that. There's Pineview. There's.
Can I have to be half red?
Half
red. I got one high school kid in Pineview and one in Dixie now. So.
Oh wow.
So next time I'm gonna wear red.
Okay, next time she'll wear red. There's a lot of nice areas for your kids. There's Canyon View High School, Pineview High School, Dixie High. Then there's a new Desert Hills High School, which is to the south of us, just north of the Arizona border, very close to town. That's a new school as well. So you've got 4 major high schools here, plus Hurricane High, and then some other outlying areas. And we are growing with a lot of charter schools. So if you have a need for special academic needs, we've got Vista Charter School, we've got Tuacahn Charter School, George Washington Academy. There's several others in Hurricane as well.
There's one in Washington that just came up. It's a Montessori school, which is really nice.
And there's even a lot of religious affiliated schools that are private as well. So you've got a huge collection of educational opportunities here in Southern Utah for your children. So don't feel like you're left out. There's a lot of opportunity.
And the reality is, it's a small enough town that my kids have friends that go to every school. And it's not but a 15-minute drive to go from my house clear across town. So they are able to play and associate with all those kids during the summer in their summer ball activities and things like that. And then when, go to school. So it's when they see each other, there's a little rivalry, but it's not that big of a deal.
The neat thing is because our weather is so wonderful here in Southern Utah.
Wonderful. 90 degrees today.
90 degrees today, nice. But it's not the muggy. We'll get into weather on another day. But we're one of the third driest climates in the United States. And as a result, when it does get hot, it's not the muggy like the armpit of America down there in Mississippi. Or even places in Texas where you really have that sticky, tacky feel. You don't feel that here. It's all nice and dry. You never get I sweat really bad. I perspire really bad when I'm out on a site, but I don't feel it nearly as bad as here. The neat thing with regard to that with your children is that we excel in those sports like tennis and golf, those outdoor sports, soccer, because we have the opportunity to practice outdoors all the time. A lot of other schools in the north just don't nearly as compete as well. We have state championships in all those sports. So.
Right, and that's one of the reasons why we moved here. We came from Vernal, Utah, which the oil field was getting ready to boom up there, and a lot of the high school kids were leaving high school in order to work. And I felt like I needed to provide my son a little bit more opportunity because he was a baseball player and played very competitively in California, and so we needed somewhere else for him to go, and he basically agreed to come here because of the year-round sports.
Have you ever experienced a place where the Milky Way is milky? That is Southern Utah. I've lived in Los Angeles, I've lived in San Diego and a lot of places, and you never really see the Milky Way. When you are here and you lay down on your back and there's no city lights intruding upon your visibility, you can actually feel the earth moving and rotating at night. It's the neatest feeling, and you actually see the Milky Way, and it's milky. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, even maybe the northern lights, but when you come to Southern Utah, you're going to have clean, crisp visibility like you've never seen before.
Well, and a lot of our subdivisions here require that the lights don't shine up or that you don't see a light bulb or to allow that dark visibility at night as well. And I know Zion National Park, everything up there in Springdale is also similar to that. So that they value the earthly part of the world, the beauty of the earth here. I really like that. I'm really big into the arts and the art community. And so it's good that we have some of those restrictions in place so that we can still enjoy it.
Yeah, we can talk forever about our environment. It is truly the best place to live on earth. You've got skiing to the north, about an hour and 20 minutes. You've got Vegas, another hour and 15 minutes to the south of us. But right here, it's like living on Mars with all the red the red rock. And it doesn't. You don't have to travel to Mars to visit Mars. We live really on the red planet, which is Southern Utah. And if you've never seen red dirt before, you need to come to Southern Utah because we got plenty of it here.
And invest in iron out.
Invest, yeah, you get a lot of bleach too because your shoes and stuff I work out in the dirt a lot, and my stuff gets dirty really, really, really quickly. So you'd love that. The bridle paths, the walking paths, we've got close to 56 miles of walking paths in St. George, and that's just with the city of St. George only. It doesn't include all the other cities. And we put that kind of infrastructure in because it's a major attraction for people wanting to move here.
Well, because we know it's part of your lifestyle, right? So St. George used to be a golf community. It was a destination for golf, and it made national headlines for that. But we realized that not everybody golfs. I know it's big news, but not everybody really likes to golf. And so how do we incorporate every other lifestyle that comes in? I know there's big mountain bike trails coming through. I know Hurricane just did a ton of mountain bike trails. And we have the Ironman Tomorrow.
So we have the Ironman here in St.
Ironman,
George.
I'm volunteering for that.
It's actually
so
one of the
excited.
most popular Ironmans in the world.
In the world, it's
that
the
takes
hardest.
Place.
I hear
It's the
hardest.
and it's the most popular, and it takes place here in St. George.
Yep. Thousands of bikers.
Thousands of bikers. We have our own marathon, which is a pre-qualifier for the Boston Marathon.
Yep.
So the St. George Marathon takes place on the first Saturday in October.
We also do the Huntsman Senior Games, which brings in a lot of 55 and older community players. I mean, okay, so the very first year I moved here, I have to tell a story. The very first year I moved here, I was working on my bachelor's degree in nursing, and we had to do community service, which I'm huge on community service, and you will get to know that very quickly with me. But so we had to volunteer so many hours at the Huntsman's Games in order to get an assignment done in one of our theses that we were writing. And so I volunteered with the basketball. And can I tell you, when I'm 80 years old, I really do hope I can play, well, I can't play basketball, but I can play volleyball and I play softball, and I want to learn to play pickleball, but some of these people are amazing.
If you ever wanted to be a once upon a time Olympian and you still have that kind of scratch you want to scratch, you can do that here in Southern Utah. It's the only place in the world we actually have games that are kind of Olympic style, like for seniors over the age of 55. I'm not there yet, but it's coming up on me. So it's great. You see people from all over the world here that come and visit for the Huntsman Senior Games. It's wonderful.
The opening ceremony, we went last year to the opening ceremony, and it was, I think they said 34 countries.
30, that's quite a few, and it's growing rapidly every year. The marathon actually brings in almost the same every year. It's a fast-paced marathon. It starts up at the top of, you're close to Pine Valley Mountain, and you're running downhill most of the time. So if you want a downhill run,
there you go.
The St. George Marathon is phenomenal for that.
I could walk it.
You can walk. I've run it. I've run it twice, and it was brutal for me. I pulled a hamstring a mile 3.
Oh.
And I didn't, I wanted to give up, and I did this to the tired runner vans, these vans that come by, and I says, I give up, but they thought I meant, go ahead, I'm okay.
They left you there.
They left me there, and I said that again 3 times. They didn't pick me up. I guess I must have been flagging them wrong, and my signals must have been off.
That's funny.
So by mile 27, or actually mile 17, I was in such agony, all my back was contorted, and a woman she must have been 84. She passed me, and that made me mad. And I passed her, and she passed me, and I passed her, and went back and forth. So finally, I got over the finish line at like hour 6:42. So really slow.
You still finished.
But I still finished in pain and agony. So.
I can't walk it. I don't know. I'm not a runner. I wish I was. I'm not.
If you wanted to walk it, you can. But if you don't finish in a certain time, they eventually pick you up and bring you into town.
Oh, they don't just make you walk home.
Yeah, you have to get in under a certain amount of time. I don't know what that time is, but you have to do that. So a lot of things happening here at St. George. A lot of great communities. We'll be talking about that on our show. Where the opportunities are for living, what are the opportunities for affordability, where you might build, where you might want to buy. Any questions you have, you're welcome to post them here on the video, send them to us. We'll reply back as soon as we possibly can. What else can we talk about?
We talk about for everything. I don't know. Let's talk about some things that are happening in the world today. So the Washington Street Journal announced a couple months ago that St. George, Utah was going to be the 3rd largest rural area community in new construction in the nation in the next 5 years. So if you really think about 5 years isn't that long.
That's right.
So how are we preparing for that? Because to be honest with you, I don't think very many real estate agents know that and understand the impact. I mean, the 3rd largest in the nation.
That's huge. The first 2 quarters of last year, we had over 65 million in new construction. And we're talking about just residential. The commercial construction exceeded that even. And that's just the first 2 quarters of 2014. It's almost on par with that this year. In fact, I think it's a little bit over that. I have to look at the numbers. So we have a lot of growth, but it's not. I've lived in 3 of the fastest growing cities in America. At one time it was Sandy, Utah. Then it was, I think, Thousand Oaks, California. And then at one time it was here. And in all of those situations, there was a lot of sprawl, just forever sprawl. But Southern Utah doesn't allow that because of the mesa situation we have here. So it has to actually be intelligently designed to fit within, because you can't just go up, cliffs that go up 1,000 feet like this. We really have to, we're confined into various areas. And we have 3-4 different cities just within this tight-knit area that help kind of create more dynamics, more diversity to the whole thing. It's not like you have one city like San Diego and you just keep sprawling and sprawling or what have you. A good example is Vegas. Vegas is just a forever sprawl out, one city, one school district, if you can imagine that, for that entire area. And that school district comes all the way into Mesquite, and it serves that entire area. It's very inefficient, and it doesn't allow for a breakup of design and a breakup of vision. When you have multiple small cities like Laverkin and Ivins and Santa Clara, totally independent municipalities that allow for more ideas, more vision, and more innovation in construction, servicing the community, you name it. If it was all under one city, it'd be a little too political.
It gives you a little bit more of a choice. It gives you more of a choice of, maybe you have certain needs. And so there might be a certain area of Washington County that we can say, well, these will fit your needs, compared to just blindly hitting a map. And there is a new city center coming in as well, right by the new airport that we have. Our airport will currently hold commercial airline, and we fly out of Denver to Los Angeles, Salt Lake. There was one more, Las Vegas.
Was it Arizona? I don't know.
I don't know. There's one more. But anyway, so there's a new city center coming out there too, which will provide more hotels, more convenience centers, more employment. And right now it's a great investment area because the lots are really inexpensive compared to the other areas of Washington County. And so you're going to be able to buy those lots and really just kind of sit on them until that goes.
Yeah, we'll be covering communities. We can actually probably go out on live site and take some questions and kind of show you what some of these are. This is our first run of the show, but we really want to show you some visibility and pictures of the area because that's really going to help you out. In fact, if you're interested in particular communities and you're interested in maybe buying and moving to this area, let us know. We can put it on our docket and let you know, or we can go film and take some shots and take some pickup and stuff like that. It's just dynamic here, just phenomenal. I don't think of a better place to live. We haven't even touched healthcare. We haven't even touched extracurricular activities, all the physical things you can do in the community here in Southern Utah. Snow Canyon.
I turned off my phone, by the way.
I left my phone on accident. We have, I believe, I counted 4 or 5 national parks and several national monuments, all within a 35-45 minute radius from this area. So you can go to the North Rim of Grand Canyon, Zion National Park, Cedar Breaks National Monument.
Beautiful.
With Bryce Canyon, Snow Canyon, which is our own little hometown, little mini Zion Canyon in a way.
Right.
But it's managed by the state. Just phenomenal. And a lot of people love day hiking and backpacking. Probably the premier location in the world for day hikes. A lot of spas. We'll talk about our spas that we have here in Southern Utah that take a lot of people on their day hikes. For that, we may even take you on a hike.
Yeah, like so Red Mountain Spa, love them. They are it's interesting. We have a lot of diversity coming. We've got a lot of people who are celebrities in the world, and they'll come into St. George and they'll hit Red Mountain Spa or Green Valley Spa. There's another one being built currently right now as well. And they'll stay for weeks, and you can literally stay at that spa and never ever leave the whole time. You can hike, you can eat, you can get massages, you can play games, you can hang out. It's definitely a full-on resort.
A lot of massage places, therapeutic places, healing. Melinda can talk a lot about healing that we do here, alternative medicines and resources for that. It's just phenomenal here. and we're going to tell you everything we possibly can to drag you here to move to Southern Utah, because that's our business. Our business is making people happy and helping them find the right place to live, right place to build their home, right place to sell, and that here is Southern Utah. As far as jobs are concerned, most people don't know this, that St. George is one of the top 5 places in the country. Last time I looked at it, it's one of the top 10 for new business starts. This does include retail outlets and chain stores and that kind of stuff. When you do have a lot of construction, you do have a lot of new starts. But there are a lot of technology companies, there are a lot of new manufacturing companies, and so that's growing. Where growth occurs, other opportunities surface as well. So it's not just a place for retired people anymore.
I think what happens is people do retire. They come here and they retire. The CEOs of all these tech companies, the CEOs and the owners have sold out, and they've chosen here to retire because you can really just be a nobody here, because we don't I kid you not, Robin Williams, I think, was here for months and probably went to Walmart, and we were just like, okay, so.
Yeah, there's quite a few there. They're under the radar.
They're under the radar. I mean, because
here.
We don't traditionally we consider everybody family and friends, and so you don't even really get that. But I think what happens is they retire here, and then they go, well, maybe I don't want to retire. Or like I know for the TV show that I do called Zion Home, the CEO of that retired, and he used to go in and fix businesses and had all these technology companies, and now he runs and owns the TV because it's kind of like his hobby. And so he's really retired but not retired, and I think that's why we get a lot of startups, is because the people who move here start them because nobody really wants to retire. Do you want to retire?
They don't. I'm dealing with some people right now that he thought he was going to retire, built his home. Now he doesn't want to retire and he wants to start another business. And you're going to find that to be kind of an intoxicating thing here in Southern Utah. There are several tech starts. I'm actually very close to the technology industry. A lot of companies that do and build technology in the area. We have our own Dixie Techs here in Southern Utah, several meetup groups that actually meet every week that talk technology and why to start. You're going to find that Utah overall is probably a lot more competitive as far as building and starting a technology company, or just about any other technology company, or any company for that matter. We can outcompete in taxes, cost of living, value proposition for employees by moving a company here to Southern Utah. If you really want to know, give us a call and we can lead you in the right direction with regard to that.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I believe even the city of St. George in Washington County will pay or subsidize businesses that come in. So the brush company from California just moved in a couple of years ago, and I had a meeting with them about January, and they were telling me how wonderful it was. It really saved them millions of dollars by moving their company here.
Yeah, we've got lots of land for that. And a lot of opportunity. Yes, it is desert land, but it's easy to develop on and easy to build on. It's better than sand on a beach, or better than very high-priced real estate in an urban area in Los Angeles or just about anywhere. So we can really service a lot of the industrial parks here in Southern Utah that are open targets for just about any business you want to move here. So we can be able to help you with that, lead you in the right direction in there.
Right. Plus our crime level's low. Low. Like somebody asked me.
No graffiti here. So, well, and if it pops up, we all
it's
just.
It's the neighbor kid.
It's the neighbor kid. It's your kid.
That's
my
not
kid.
My kid. My kids don't do that. No. So
just kidding.
I had a client from Minnesota ask me about the crime, and they were like, ooh, is there homicides? And, honestly, we do have our once a year double homicide, usually domestic violence. Once. We had one.
Long time ago. It happens everywhere and stuff like that, but it's a real, we crack down on stuff real quick. We do have a zero tolerance for graffiti, so if it shows up anywhere, it's attacked and dealt with. What happens with cities, and I've noticed this, is when it stays, and it's allowed to stay, then that kind of element wins over the social environment. But when it's attacked and dealt with right away, then it doesn't win over the environment, and they know that they just can't do their thing on concrete anywhere they want. So that is gone. We do have our Hispanic population is growing. It's around 22,000 people of our 150,000 people that live here in the Washington County area. And they've integrated with our culture quite well. And it's fun. They're out in the parks. They're not isolated, which you find in a lot of other cultures.
Do you know? And a lot of our schools have what are they called? Where they one of our elementary starts teaching Spanish in kindergarten, and then another one is teaching Chinese. What is that called?
Full immersion, or I can't remember if that's the word. Okay.
So I mean, it offers such a diversity that we can provide, communicate as well. And I think that in the nursing world, that probably was the biggest challenge for me. Is I don't know Spanish, and I always wanted to learn it, but my mother-in-law is Spanish, and she speaks to me, but I don't know what she says, and sometimes it's probably not very very nice. But so there was that barrier, and I think that the community realized that and is now offering programs so we don't have that in our youth.
Yeah, they're here, and a lot of them service in the labor industries, and a lot of them rise up, become businessmen themselves, businesswomen, and they're very thriving in this community. I love them to death. A lot of them work for me, and I work for them, basically. And so that's a great mix here. It's not a segregation or a separation, no isolationism here, not to the degree that you can find in some other cultures or other places. It's when you find a new growing economy, a vibrant culture for that matter, you find a lot of mixtures, a lot of coming together, and less separation. I mean, I can't say that's always going to be the case. Things can change down the road, but when there's a lot of opportunity for people, you'll find people coming together a lot better.
Well, I'm going to be honest with why our culture is the way it is when you bring in the LDS church, and I have to give credit for that. Part of it is the majority, what do we say, 60%?
Probably 60%.
60% LDS here, but that is predominantly the culture. So Utah has its own little culture. It's interesting because when we were looking at where to move back when my son was 13, we looked in Colorado, we looked in California, we looked in Idaho, and we looked into staying in Utah. And the culture is so defined that it was hard for me to even justify moving a 13-year-old boy or kid out of the state of Utah, because we have manners and we have respect and we have cleanliness, and it's expected. It's expected of our community, and so it's a great place to raise your kids. And I take my kids to Las Vegas and to LA and to Mexico and to all that all the time, so that they don't just get our culture, which I think is kind of we used to be part of the issue when I was younger. There were people that had never even been out of their hometown, let alone somewhere else in the state of Utah, let alone somewhere else in the United States. But for its purposes, I think that's a benefit here.
And some things that help you understand the culture, especially of Southern Utah, and Utah in generally, we're one of the #1 states in the world, basically regions, places in the world for volunteerism. Which is why we can attract, the Ironman, which is taking place this weekend here in Southern Utah. A lot of big events like that, they come here because the volunteerism is massive. We just get up and do things, which is why they call us the Beehive State. Beehives are worker bees, and they get out and they do things in droves. They accomplish great things in whole groups. That's what we are. That's what Utah is all about. So if you really want to get a part of something and be a part of the community, that's what we do.
It's easy to do.
It's very easy to do.
There's always something going on.
There's always something going on that you can be a part of. It's kind of exciting.
Yes, it is.
So what else do you want to know about Southern Utah? Anything else we can tell them on this big, huge, grand?
I talk about my tree.
Treats.
My tree in the back. So I have a tree in my office.
Oh, the tree. Talk about the tree.
So I have a tree in my office because I had an energy healer come in, and she did the I'm really big in that because I do believe that everything has an energy and everything has a purpose in life. And I'm going a little further. Yesterday, I was telling my daughter that when I was younger, I used to eat one slice of bread that was wheat and one slice that was white because I didn't want the wheat bread to feel bad because I didn't like it. And she was like, so it has feelings? I'm like, yes, everything has feelings. You have to know that.
I don't think a piece of bread has any feelings, but it's okay.
Anyway, that's true. That's a true story. So anyway, so I had the energy healer come in, and a tree.
You must be from Mars.
My mom tells me I am. I had the tree because the tree is a symbol of business. In anything you do, you have what do you call it? A hard surface, and you have to break through that surface to grow your tree. And how do you grow it? You grow the roots, and sometimes the roots takes 3 to 5 years to grow before that tree can break that surface and start blossoming into something wonderful and beautiful. And so that's kind of my business philosophy. It takes time, and that's part of one of the reasons why we started the podcast, is because that's just one more root that we're putting down to let everybody know that we exist. The world really is getting smaller and smaller, and we want everybody to know that we're the only 2 people in southern Utah.
Yeah, we are the only 2 people in southern Utah. So if you really, and we're the best funnel, the best people to find out about why southern Utah is the best place to live, best place to build, best place to buy, best place to set up a business, best place to breathe. We don't have any.
We have no bad air.
No bad air. I'm sorry about you, rest of the world, but we just don't have it. It's always cleaned out here. We're at what's called just above the north rim of the Grand Canyon. We're just below the footing of the Rocky Mountains. We're in that kind of a plateau area where you've got nice cool breezes coming down off the mountain, and you've got your hot, warm, mild summers.
That breeze.
You want that breeze. It's just a great place down here, and I can actually, if you drive around with your window down during this time of year, you really know where the nice places are. Mm-hmm. I remember when I lived in California and I used to drive home from school, and I would drive on this road called Earps Road in Thousand Oaks, and I knew I had this little motorcycle that I would go to school on, and I would just brace myself. Oh no, I'm going through a cold spot, and it would just freeze me up. And there's a lot of diversity here. Just up the road from here, if you wanted to build just 5 miles or buy a home just 5 miles up, it's 5-6 degrees cooler.
It is,
most of the time.
It snows.
And it snows.
Mm-hmm.
But you come down just a little bit and there's no snow and the temperature's warm. If you were to compare our temperature from Vegas to here, we're about 4 to 7 degrees difference cooler on average than Vegas. And then if you were to compare us to Arizona, well, it's just sticky and muggy down there.
Unless you're on the Salt River.
Yeah, unless you're on the river. But with all the golf courses down there and all the concrete and thermal mass they built, it's hot.
It's hot.
It's hot.
In Arizona. My son was looking at going to ASU, and I was like, dude, if I have to drive 6 hours away, I'm putting you on the beach somewhere.
No, don't move to Arizona. You don't want to go there.
No, he ended up staying here, which was perfect because, everything that we have to offer here was what he needed anyway.
Yeah, I could go on. Water here is just phenomenal. It comes right off the mountain, and I never could live in anywhere where I couldn't see where the water is coming from.
Well, and they'll say, is there any water restrictions? Are you running out of water? I mean, are we all going to shrivel up and die like a snail with salt on it? And the reality is Salt Lake right now has a big water restriction on them, which is up north. But we haven't had any water restrictions here so far. Majority of our landscaping, though, is desert landscaping because it's nicer. I mean, we have some patches of grass, and my backyard has grass, but I don't want more than I have because I have to mow it.
Yeah, it's very easy on the. We do have our rain and we do have our moisture, but the neat thing about living in the the state of Utah and up through Idaho and even parts of Colorado is you've got the Rocky Mountain Range, and it grabs a lot of moisture.
Yes.
And it's not like the thermal masses of cool that come out of the Arctic and the Midwest and just plows in on you. You got those high winds and cold temperatures. It's a really mild temperate climate. If you ever watch the weather, just watch the weather and watch what's happened. A lot of the storms and bad stuff really comes to the north, the north of us, and it kind of, and you can see it right up about north of Pine Valley Mountain, and you'll see it up there, but it's not going to come down here. And we'll get some monsoons, which are nice, cools things off in the summer when it's hot. But just a mild temperature. We do have 2 to 3 months of heat, but it does cool off in the evening.
Well, and I, coming from Vernal, Utah, which is the coldest city in the entire state, and it has the biggest amount of immersion and smog as well. You run from your car to the grocery store with your coat and your gloves and your earmuffs and everything on, and then it's the same thing in the heat here. As long as you have air conditioning, you'll be fine. I did do 2 summers here with no air conditioning. And one summer I was driving back and forth to California to work. So I'd work in Bakersfield and then drive back and work here, and I had no air conditioner. That was
pretty brutal.
I got Icemans from the surgeon, and I put ice in them and ran them through my car. So
it can be hot here, but something, you can fight the heat pretty much. It's not that bad. If you were to add up 12 months of the year, and really you decide where you want to live by the amount of months you have that are just super perfect. We have the longest fall season you'll ever experience in southern Utah, and we typically have one of the longest springs you'll ever experience, which is here in southern Utah. Our fall temperatures, our fall colors can last anywhere from mid-October all the way into January.
I know, and it's so nice because you still have trees with leaves and everything on it.
Sometimes we don't hit color. Our color doesn't change until December, which is neat because it's like fall. You got Christmas. Christmas is here, and then you got your little bit of winter in January, and then spring's right there. Yeah. So we have like that much winter. So if you
and it will snow. It will
snow
2 days a year.
That much. So if you were to add it up, if you were to say consider Salt Lake City, you're going to have 3 months of winter, maybe an additional month of inversion. So you've got 4 months of the 12 months you're giving up to really not so fun weather. And then you've got a spring that can be long, but it gets popped into summer real quick. You've got a spring that may be a month and a half to 2 months if you're lucky. Summer up there can be, when it's hot down here, it's almost equally hot up there. And then you've got your fall, but your fall just comes real quick. And the leaves drop in color, and you've got maybe 2-3 weeks of fall, whereas down here you've got 2 months of it. So add it up. Let's add it up. 2 to 3 months of fall.
Right.
You've got at least 1 to 2 months of spring. So and then you've got maybe right now that's about 5 months of the year that's perfect. The best weather, which is spring and fall. And then you've got maybe 1 to 1.5, tops 2 months of winter. Yes. But down here, that means just a cold night.
Yeah, that means like, what, 40 degrees?
30 degrees tops. And
you just don't want to sleep outside on the trampoline.
Right.
It's too cold.
We had a winter of 2 weeks, really bad, a couple years ago, where it stayed freezing temperatures for about 2 weeks, and then that was about it.
I got stuck on the freeway. Because, coming from a community where there's snow. I mean, I grew up with snow, so I'm just driving, but people don't drive. If it's snowing here, it's best to stay home. Yeah, so if you have 5-6 months of really perfect weather, a month, let's say 2 months of kind of a cold winter, so now you're giving up 5 months, literally half of your year, I would say, is just pristine, perfect weather. You can't really say that about many places. No, and I think really we only have one hot month. Like I think we get into 110, 118, and then it's the month of August, which most of our kids are back to school by then, so they're in air conditioned buildings and
Yeah, August is like any other place. It can be the worst part of the years here. It really doesn't get really hot until the middle of July, and then it goes hot into August, and then it can bleed into September just a little bit. By about the middle of September, it starts to cool off really quick, and then it stays mild all the way through October, November, and you don't start to feel any kind of nippy cold until December. But again, that's really late in the evening, early in the morning. It's not during the day, and it's just at night.
And I walk. I walk every morning outside. I get up 4:30, start walking around 5, and it is so nice to walk in the mornings here and in the evenings, especially during the summer. It's a hot day and you're just out. You've just got dinner done and you want to do something that gets you some exercise. Go out. A 75-degree walk at night is just perfect.
Perfect.
You can ask for anything better than that.
Yeah.
And all of the animals that are out. I mean, I have tons of wildlife. I live fairly close to the city, but we have raccoons and skunks and coyotes, and so we still have wildlife too. So it's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of wildlife. We don't need to even go that direction. Snakes, and we won't.
No, I love snakes.
Yeah. We do have the occasional cucaracha, but we won't say that. We'll keep that quiet. We do have our own downfalls, but there's so many upticks and so many positives with regard to Southern Utah communities that we won't mention anything else.
Unless you ask.
So please let us know what you're interested in. We'll tell you about it. We'll try to go out there on site and show you some of the beauty of the area, because that's where it's really going to showcase what it's all about and why you might want to consider. If you're looking to move to Southern Utah, we are your best resources.
Absolutely. And please just, if you watch this and you have any comments, like I said, this is our first one. We are just introducing it so that we know exactly what you're looking for. If you're thinking of moving to Southern Utah and you have questions, we're happy to ask them completely, truthfully, and honestly. And we're also going to get into some sticky stuff, some of the stuff that when you're moving here, you want to watch out for. So, in the industries here, so that you are educated on what's ethical and what's not.
Right. We have no problem with that. We'll be blunt and truthful and to the point. And if you have any questions, we have no problem talking about those issues. A lot of people have honest questions. When you move into a different culture, you really want to know what it's all about. And a lot of people move to Southern Utah because they love it here. But sometimes they end up in the wrong community or the wrong subdivision, the wrong HOA or the wrong home. And they didn't have enough preliminary education, a lot of forethought to go with that. We can give that.
Or somebody that listened.
Somebody that listened.
They were all about the sale and all about that deal than they were about providing great service.
Right. I've seen that happen on more cases than you can shake a stick at. And so if you really have two people and a lot of resources that know a lot about the area here, like we do, we can really ask the right questions. Here's a good question. Do you like the sun to rise with you in the morning inside your bedroom, or do you like to have it set in the evening? Weird questions like that, who you are. And if you're a night person, then that says a lot about the community that you might want to live in. If you're not a light person and you're more of an early person, that says a lot.
It does. Do you have kids? Do you not have kids? Are you willing to live in a neighborhood that has kids? We have a lot of 55 and older communities here that have restrictions on how many kids can, how many days they can visit and things like that. So there's a lot of our communities that are set up that way so that when you retire or when you move here or you buy a second home here, it's more of a resort. So it's set up to where it's kind of a mini vacation place that you already own.
And the key thing to understand before we leave you on our first podcast is that we do live in a tourist environment, which is why we're so happy and why we enjoy living here and why we like talking to other people about it. If you can imagine living on the rim of the Grand Canyon, or living near a major ski resort, or right on the beach that's popular, the North Shore of Hawaii, we can compare to anything like that because we do live in a tourist environment. We have 1 million+ people that come through Zion National Park. and that's really where we live. And so if you really thought that living by a national park, or really basically inside a national park, that feel, that tourist feel, that's really what we are.
Yes, and it's so close to Vegas.
Yes.
I mean, we have shuttles that go to Vegas. We have shuttles that go to Los Angeles. We have shuttles that go to San Diego now. So, you know, so I have to say that when I did a conference in LA with the Luxury Connect with Inman Group, one of the developers was really confused about where St. George is. And he kept asking me, is it up by Park City? Everybody knows Park City, Utah. Everybody knows Park City, Utah. Well, no, we're not by Park City. We're about 4.5 hours away. We're south of Park City.
5 hours away.
Well, you drive slow.
Yeah, we're quite a ways. So if you've ever heard of Park City as a tourist environment for skiing, just come to southern Utah. We've got skiing just to the north of us at Bryan National Park.
And
hiking and everything just down here, and you'll have clean runs. You're not going to run into a lot of people, a lot of open runs.
Yeah.
So really, this is really a destination place for a lot of people in Vegas that come up here for whatever reason, for parking, the parks and recreation and stuff like that. So again, we do live in a tourist environment.
Yep.
And if you have any questions about that environment, all the various, just Google it and you'll see images, or Bing it or Yahoo it, and just click on images and click on St. George, click on Zion National Park, and you'll see the beauty that we live in.
Now, we want to do our broadcast once a week, about an hour long, because we don't want to bore you too long, and we will definitely be talking about select things from here forward. But we want to make sure that you're interested in what we're saying, so please, feedback is great, positive or negative, because we both can take it. And except for if you tell me I'm fat, I know I'm fat, so that's not going to surprise me. But anyway, we want to know what days are best for you. Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. I know it's recorded, so you can pretty much watch it whenever you want. But we want to make sure if you're going to be here live with us, that it's on a good day. Yeah, and just, again, make comments down below, and we'll be able to, it helps us know where we need to go with the show and what we can report back to you, information we can give you about this area. Absolutely. Anything else? That's it? I think that's it. I got to go to a baseball game. Oh, I've got to go home and cook some barbecue. So 90 degrees. I'm putting some tanning oil on, and I'm going to a baseball game. We'll do that, and then we'll see you guys next week on Friday. And welcome to our show. Thank you, and have a good weekend. Bye. Bye-bye.